That has to be the most dramatic and objectively hilarious tie in NFL history. The Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones, 40. The Green Bay Packers and Micah Parsons, 40. A tie. After all that drama, all that back and forth, the chatter, the chirps, Jerry, Micah, and it's a tie? Nobody wins the game? The script writers were on one tonight. Sunday Night Football, Week 4, September 28th, 2025. The Cowboys, at home, tie the Packers in a surprising performance by the Dallas Cowboys. The Packers entering this game were substantial favorites at 6.5, 7 points. And the Green Bay Packers, despite scoring 40 points, if I were to tell you that the Green Bay Packers scored 40 points tonight, how much money would you have put on the Green Bay Packers? That's the first question I'm going to ask you. How much money would you have put on the Green Bay Packers tonight if I told you they would score 40 points? Now, we all understand that the Dallas Cowboys have the worst defense in football. They have shown that throughout the season. And even with Deron Bland back in the lineup, a little bit of an infusion of Jadeveon Clowney, they still stunk for a majority of the game. Now, special teams made one of the biggest, most substantial contributions to this game for the Cowboys. With that big blocked extra point and return for 2, this game wouldn't have been the same without it. And the defense did contribute before the first half with a strip sack that resulted in a Cowboys touchdown that actually had Dallas leading at half, despite being down at one point 14-2, and the game looking like it was going to be a runaway win and an easy win and honestly a boring Sunday Night Football game. It started as everyone expected. The Packers slowly but surely beating down Dallas, doing what they want on offense, running, passing, whatever they want. And Dallas being predictable Swiss cheese, and Dak Prescott just looking a little bit overmatched and just honestly not having enough around him to truly compete against the Packers defense. But as the momentum turned and the tide turned, what we really learned about this game was pretty substantial. And what we learned about these teams, I think, is fascinating. I think if you're an NFC contender looking at this game, the Dallas Cowboys just provided you a bit of a blueprint for how to attack the Packers defense. Through the first few weeks of the season, the Packers defense had looked impenetrable. They absolutely dominated Detroit, who was the NFL's best offense last season, or arguably the best offense in the NFL last season. They dominated the Rookie of the Year and arguably the best rookie season we've ever seen in Jaden Daniels. And they played really exceptionally well against Cleveland, despite losing that game, basically because their offense couldn't score any points. It was 13-10. But in this game, the Packers defense, the side of the football that featured the heavily headlined Micah Parsons, allowed 40 points. And honestly, Dak Prescott, Dakota Prescott, he has his haters. I don't know how you're a Cowboys fan and you could hate on Dak after this game and how he's played for the entire season. He hasn't always played perfect. And sure, Dallas was embarrassed last week against Chicago. But he played phenomenal tonight. You know, Dak Prescott was the best player on the field tonight. He had 31 completions for 40 attempts, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, 124 passer rating, and was only sacked once, despite a pretty good amount of pressure. I'd also like to point out that the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, especially in the second half, was phenomenal. They scored 17 points in the 21 points in the second half, Dallas did. Including overtime, they scored 24 points. Dak Prescott was accurate on time, decisive, and he even made some of the best plays I've ever seen him make, including that long throw in overtime to Tolbert, I believe it was, on the right sideline. Absolutely incredible play scrambling out of the pocket. And I didn't think Dak Prescott had the arm strength to achieve that throw, but he made that throw on the money. And you could actually see the emotion pouring out of Dak Prescott. I think at one point, at the end of the fourth quarter, before the Packers drove down to tie the game with a field goal, he was going like this is my house, this is our house, this is us, like showing real emotion, showing real leadership, showing real maturity, showing real anger, showing real frustration. Kind of made me a Dak fan in that moment. And actually in the first quarter, I even said to my dad, who is a Cowboys fan, I said, I kind of feel bad for Dak in this game. Because the way that I was playing through this game, I think it was already 7-0 by that point. Dak was, not exactly on fire at that point. And you could see the Packers pass rush was firing. And I could just see the visions of like the Packers are going to win this game by 20. Every Cowboys fan and everybody on the media is going to blame Dak. And maybe there's more pressure on Jerry right now and more attention on Jerry than Dak. But it really does feel like when you consider the situation for Dak Prescott, he's playing really, really great. I mean, look at the situation he's in. He has a below average offensive line despite how they played, right? Javonte Williams was picked off the street to play running back, and despite how he's played as well, he's played really well. This game he had 85 yards on 20 carries. He's been a workhorse for them too, man. And the fact of the matter is, Chris Collinsworth even said, he reminds you of Josh Jacobs. They had nearly identical rushing stats. Actually, Javonte Williams was more efficient. He had 85 yards on 20 carries. Josh Jacobs had 86 yards on 22 carries. So, incredible pickup by Dallas, Javonte Williams. I want to give their front office and Jerry Jones and whoever made that decision a lot of credit. But, I mean, again, point stands. Scrap heap running back, even Miles Sanders, who actually left the game injured. No CeeDee Lamb, one of the best receivers in football, one of the most game planned for receivers in football. And, who's he throwing to? Jalen Tolbert, Kevontae Turpin, a punt returner. George Pickens really, really, really stood up in this game. He really made his presence known for the Cowboys. I thought pretty consensus. In my opinion, Pickens was one of the best trades of the offseason. And I hope most people believe the same because Pickens, for my money, has flashed top 20 receiver in the NFL potential. He's a freak show. He's fat. He's pretty fast. He's tall. He's lanky. He's long. He can make really awkward catches. He has phenomenal hands. And he's difficult to cover one-on-one. He's better after the catch than you would think. He's better in the air than you would think. Like, he's really, really, really good. He's a number one receiver for a majority of teams in this league, or like a good bunch of, maybe not a majority, but about half almost. He has that type of talent, and he showed that today. 8 catches, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns on 11 targets. My main takeaway from this was, again, going back to the beginning, the game plan against Green Bay. Dallas, quick, decisive, underneath throws. Don't let the pass rush get to you. Run the ball, specifically on 2nd and 3rd down. And I felt Dallas mostly protected really well when they needed to throw the ball, especially in those 2-minute situations. Play some ball control. Don't allow the Packers to ball control. If Dallas had half a defense, they would have easily won this game. This was an incredibly well put together game plan by Dallas. Whether it be Schottenheimer, who deserves a lot of credit because he is the play caller, and or their offensive coordinator or collaboration, Dak executed it at a high level, but Dallas did a great job of keeping Green Bay's pass rush at bay, keeping them frustrated, and having them moving backwards, defending the run. And that was the point that I said previewing the game. If Dallas has any chance they need to run the ball. And they did throw for over 300 yards, but it's in the situations they ran the ball. Like, they were able to kind of stay balanced and keep the Packers out of the down and distances where they're truly dangerous. And a lot of that comes to the quarterbacking. Notice how I add an ing to that. This was a very, very experienced, well-educated quarterback game by Dak Prescott. This was a little Tom Brady. This was get the ball out, don't let the pass rush get to me, and let's just stay ahead of the chains. We understand that their pass rush is the best part of their team, the best part of their defense. If we can get the ball and stay on schedule, we know we can pick on these corners. We can pick on matchups. Dak made a number of really awesome audibles in this game, rather checking to runs, checking to routes, checking to different plays, audibling. So I think he deserves a ton of love. This was one of the best quarterback performances of the week, if not the best that I watched. And Drake May played this week, so there's that. Pickens, of course, played great, like I mentioned. Jalen Tolbert had some big catches, 4 for 61. As I said, he had that long 34-yard catch, I think it was. Jake Ferguson was kind of quiet, but he picked up 7 catches. Turpin was always dangerous. I feel like he's always a dangerous guy. 3 for 30. Had some really good returns in this game as well. Again, incredibly impressed by Javonte in all facets. For the Packers side, I thought Love played well, but of course the bar for Love in this game and the standard in terms of what we expect for a quarterback facing the Cowboys is pretty high, right? Even with some beat-up offensive linemen and a lackluster receiving core around him, we still expected Love to have plenty of openings, plenty of easy completions, and plenty of stats. And that's what we saw. You know, funny enough, these two quarterbacks kind of had identical numbers. Love had 31 completions. Dak had 31 completions. Dak had 40 attempts. Love had 43. Love had slightly more yards, 337 to 319. Both had 3 touchdowns. Both averaged around 8 yards per attempt. Both had 1 sack. And Love had a 118 rating, while Dak had a 124. I'd say Dak was more impressive considering he was playing the Packers defense, the Packers pass rush, without his number 1 receiver and a subpar offensive line, while the Packers have a great OC and, you know, playing the worst defense in the league. So it's not surprising that Love had these numbers. That being said, I will say about Jordan Love, almost every single time he had to come through, he pretty much did. Now, one thing that was a difference is that Jordan Love, there was a turnover by the Packers, right? The Packers had 1 turnover, and that kind of turned the tide. Love did fumble the ball at the end of the first half, which turned the tide and allowed Dallas to put up 16 points in the second quarter, which was a big point in the game. Because if the Packers don't turn it over there, it's unlikely they come away with points. And the game is 14-9 entering half for the Packers instead of 16-9 Cowboys. So that was a pretty big play in the game, right? But Love played well. He made some nice throws to Romeo Doubs. He made some nice throws. I thought he was actually very accurate in this game, where Love can be a little bit spotty. I thought he ran the ball pretty decent. He had 3 carries for 28 yards in this game. I thought he had a couple moments there. Like, he actually extended plays and avoided pressure pretty well. And he did what he was asked to do within the offense, but it felt like every time he had to deliver, every time they needed a third down conversion, it felt like he got it, or he made the right throw, or he made the right decision. So Love deserves credit for that. Now, I will say about the Packer offense, despite scoring 40 points, it did feel like they were missing something. It feels like they're missing a big-time playmaker. Josh Jacobs, to me, is a dog, but he even lacks a little bit of explosiveness that I'd like to see from your best playmaker. He did have 150 yards and 2 touchdowns total, but some of it I just feel like was kind of the offense. I will say he had some really impressive yards after contact and some really impressive just like burying people, running the ball downhill. Like that's what Josh Jacobs does well. But it feels like even as good as the Packers offense was, it just feels like there's just this lack of like true alpha receiver or true like awesome. It felt like they were missing a player, like whether it be, could Christian Watson come back and be that guy? Jaden Reed injured. Does he return this year? I'm not sure. Collinsworth alluded to it, but I thought he was actually out for the year. He might be back at the end of the season. I'm not sure. But this is a team that looks like they're lacking another receiver. They're lacking some speed. Christian Watson maybe. They're lacking some explosion. And it just felt like Dallas wasn't able to take advantage of the deficiency of the Packers receivers. They can't play man coverage. They can't really do that, right? That's not their game. And they're just not good enough. You know what I'm saying? So I'm fascinated to see how some defenses try to replicate Cleveland's plan from last week. Because it felt like the Packers had similar issues in terms of protection in moments of games and then separation. But Dallas just could never truly take advantage of it. It would pop up every once in a while, but it just wasn't, the Cowboys just couldn't close drives. You know what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. Romeo Doubs had a really good game. 6 catches, 58 yards, 8 targets, 3 touchdowns. Not 1, 2, 3 touchdowns. Matthew Golden had one of his best games of his NFL career. 5 receptions for 58 yards on 6 targets. Tucker Kraft was quiet after the first half. It felt like 5 for 56 on 5 targets. Emmanuel Wilson had a strong game. Jacobs had to leave the game, came back, but Wilson had some really impressive catches after the catch. 3 for 37 on 3 targets. He also had 8 carries for 44 yards. I really do like him as a change of pace receiving running back, backup running back. I like him. I've always liked him. Savion Williams, they've tried to involve as a screen threat. Wicks had some big catches in overtime, but nothing really after that. But overall, I think my biggest takeaway is I was disappointed by the Packers, specifically their defense. I was disappointed by how they were out-physicaled, how their pass rush wasn't able to take over in key moments of the game, how they weren't able to consistently affect Dak Prescott, how they weren't able to take advantage of a receiving core without CeeDee Lamb. I was consistently let down and disappointed by the Packers defense. Again, what I said at the beginning, if I would have told you that Dallas allowed 40 points, the Packers scored 40 points, what do you think the score would have been? I would have said like 40-20, 40-21, 40-24. That's what I would have said. Not 40-40. Now, Dak did elevate his game. He played super duper Dak MVP mode, right? But I just feel like 1 tackle for loss on the stat sheet, 1 sack on the stat sheet, 5 quarterback hits. The Cowboys had 6 tackles for loss in the game. Green Bay had 1. 1. That's exactly what I said at the beginning. Dak and this offensive staff had a phenomenal game plan. Keep it ahead of the chains. 1 tackle for loss. 1. They couldn't get penetration in the run game. They couldn't get enough pressure on Dak. They didn't force Dak to make any mistakes. No fumbles. No interceptions. And not a lot of throws that were really in jeopardy. Dak played phenomenal. But the Packers defense was highly disappointing. Their corner play tonight was atrocious. Extremely exposable. Okay? I thought Edgerrin Cooper had a bad game. Outright bad. I thought Quay Walker had a really strong start to the game. But the biggest thing I saw was just a lack of effectiveness from the defensive line that you usually see. Devontae Wyatt did get hurt in the game. And I was just like, their corners just, I felt like didn't play well. Hobbs was in and out of the game with injury. For Dallas, I thought Travion Diggs had a better game than usual. He should have had an interception. But he didn't get one. Should have had one. But he didn't get one. He had a nice tackle in overtime, though, to kind of keep the game from them losing the game. I will say that. Bland was struggling with the injury. Probably not his best effort. I did think Dallas was around Jordan Love quite a bit as a pass rush unit, but didn't feel like anyone really stood out. Clowney got more snaps this week. He wasn't super effective. Odigizua had a couple quarterback hits. Enzer Raku had a pretty good game. James Houston did have a sack. Dante Fowler, they were talking him up, but it didn't feel like he had a huge impact on the game. The Cowboys linebackers continue to be really, really poor. And it's specifically the middle of their defense that is just really poor. And they seem to give up like a lot of curl routes, a lot of like just zone beaters in the middle of the field. Like they just give up. They have like a very soft style of coverage that's frustrating to watch. I don't know if they should become a more aggressive unit or what. But I think if you're a Cowboys fan, you're extremely inspired and not elated, obviously, but I think you're excited by how your team played here. The defense is a serious issue, and I don't think that's going to be fixed this year. But this is a fun team to watch. Their offense is moving the ball. And I'd make a pretty strong argument that what if they did have Micah Parsons in this game? What would Dallas look like as a team right now if they had Micah Parsons? Consider that for a second. I'm just going to throw that out there. You know? That being said, the team with Micah Parsons allowed 40, but for the rest of the season, they've been pretty damn good. This was a big-time answer the bell game for Dallas, and they did it. I doubted that they would. I doubted that they would be able to stand up to the challenge. I doubted that they would play with physicality and fight. But hey, man, I think Schottenheimer is a decent coach. I've got to say, like, the two best opponents they've played this year, they have played toe-to-toe, wall-to-wall, end-to-end with those two teams. Despite no CeeDee Lamb against the Packers, and in week 1, just finding out Micah Parsons was going to be traded. Like, so, yeah, they lost to the Bears. They barely survived the Giants. But what you can say about Schottenheimer's Cowboys so far is they have gone up against the top dogs in the NFC, and they have not blinked. They may have fallen short of their ultimate outcome, but they have played well. So I give them credit. I give Dak a lot of credit. Dallas is going to be a team I want to watch every week because they're a lot of fun. And honestly, by the end of this thing, I was kind of rooting for them to win the game, despite me needing the Packers to at least tie the game. So, yeah. The Packers, meanwhile, just a frustrating team. I feel like they should have played better than this. They should play better than this. They should be better than this. Their defense should be better than this. It feels like in a game where it was high scoring, like their lack of perimeter threats really shined. Their lack of perimeter ability at corner and wide receiver, despite them scoring 40 points. Again, their running back was their leading receiver with 71 yards. So, I don't know what to think about the Packers. I feel like I have to kind of move them down in my power rankings, despite the 2-1-1 record, and the impressive wins in week 1 and 2. So, those are my thoughts about the Packers and Cowboys. Let me know what you guys thought. I will say, that ending almost gave me a heart attack. The Packers, like, lackadaisically getting to the line of scrimmage and just chucking the ball to the end zone. the ball landing with 1 second left for them to tie the game up was crazy. You've got to have more urgency in that situation. Way more urgency. The Packers could have managed that way better than they did. Way better. Those are small things that in big games in the playoffs, that's going to matter. Especially against much better defenses than the Dallas Cowboys. So those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know yours in the comment section below. Very fun game. George Pickens went crazy. Dak Prescott went crazy. Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs responded. And Micah Parsons was held off the stat sheet. He actually was. He might have had 1 tackle that I really remember. They did credit him with a sack, which I don't remember. I don't remember his sack, to be honest with you. They have him credited with the sack. I don't remember that. But yeah, it felt like Parsons did very little in this game from my perspective. And I think that's how Jerry wanted it. But thanks, guys, for watching. Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the Packers. Where do they stand in your power rankings? What do you think of them long term? And the Dallas Cowboys, what do you think of them? Could they still make the playoffs? Are they a feisty team? Or are they just one of these teams that can live up to play a really tough game against a good opponent, but they're just going to be too inconsistent? Let me know in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace.